Chapter 1 Betrayal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sun sets and the autumn wind dances in the forest, Daqian Dynasty, Jianqiu County, outside Jianqiu City. A figure in white passed through the mountain forest and landed on the cliff dyed red by the sunset. The figure in white is a handsome young man, 16 or 17 years old, with a warm smile on his face. Brother Jianqiu, you are here. A girl in yellow clothes stood pretty among the cliffs. When she saw the boy in white clothes, a sweet smile appeared on her delicate and beautiful face. Chu Jianqiu looked at the sweet smile of the girl in yellow shirt, and his heart was filled with happiness. He reached out and touched the girl's black hair, and said dotingly, "Yaoer, after today, the 3 cold poisons in your body will be completely eliminated. By then you will be able to become a talented girl that attracts the attention of everyone." "Really?" the girl in yellow shirt said in surprise, her watery eyes filled with autumn waves. Chu Jianqiu's heart moved, and he gently took the girl in yellow shirt into his arms, and said with a smile, "Of course it is true. When did I lie to you?" That with the beauty in his arms, Chu Jianqiu felt extremely happy at this moment. Although he paid a huge price, he felt that all the efforts were worth it. Chu Jianqiu is the young master of the Chu family, one of the 4 major families in Jianqiu City. He has been extremely talented since he was a child, and his cultivation talent is extremely powerful. He is an unparalleled genius in Jianqiu City. At the age of 14, he broke through the true Qi realm, and soon after, he awakened the prefecture-level middle-grade bloodline, which shocked the entire Jianqiu County. But since then, something extremely puzzling has happened, because after that, in the past 3 years, Chu Jianqiu's cultivation has not made any progress. Chu Jianqiu began to face countless doubts and ridicules, and a genius who attracted much attention fell from the altar. Chu Jianqiu just laughed at all this and ignored it, because he knew very well the reason why his cultivation level had not improved. That's because he has been using his own essence and blood to treat the girl in yellow for 3 years. The girl in yellow shirt is Liu Gaoyang, the daughter of the head of the Liu family, one of the 4 major families in Jianqiu City. Even though the Liu family is one of the 4 major families in Jianqiu City, they are helpless against the cold poison on Liu Tianyou's body, because it is the cold poison produced by the awakening Xian-level middle-grade Sanin Jumai, and there is only one thing in the world that can cure it, and that is awakening the natal essence and blood of the Jiaoyang bloodline warrior. What Chu Jianqiu awakened happened to be the Jiaoyang bloodline, and it was the prefecture-level mid-level Jiaoyang bloodline. The bloodline of awakened warriors in the world is divided into 4 major levels: yellow level, Xian level, earth level, and heaven level. Each grade is divided into low grade, medium grade, top grade, and top grade. The earth level mid-grade Jiaoyang bloodline awakened by Chu Jianqiu can naturally cure Liu Tianyou's cold poison, but the essence and blood of a warrior is the condensed essence of the warrior. Losing the essence and blood will cause great harm to the warrior, but for the sake of the woman he loved, Chu Jianqiu did not hesitate to force out his own blood. Liu Tianyou received Chu Jianqiu's essence and blood, and the cold poison was gradually eliminated, but the price for Chu Jianqiu was that his cultivation level had not improved in the past 3 years. "As soon as your illness is cured, I will immediately propose to Uncle Liu to marry you. In 1 month, there will be the Xianxian sex recruitment competition. At that time, we will join the Xianxian sect together and become a carefree couple of gods and immortals." Chu Jianqiu's eyes were filled with excitement and longing for the future. 2 blushes appeared on Liu Tianyou's face. He nodded shyly, and murmured in a low voice, "Everything depends on Brother Jianqiu. It's just that in the past 3 years, Brother Jianqiu has suffered a lot." Chu Jianqiu stretched out his hand and gently scratched Liu Tianyou's nose, and said angrily, "You still say such polite words to me, you deserve a beating." The 2 cuddled together for a long time. Chu Jianqiu lifted Liu Tianyou up from his arms and said softly, "It's getting late. Come, I will remove the last trace of cold poison for you." Liu Tianyou nodded meekly and sat cross-legged on the stone on the edge of the cliff. Chu Jianqiu closed his eyes and adjusted his breath. His true energy circulated, and the blood in his body began to flow rapidly with the movement of his mind. Chu Jianqiu's body trembled slightly, big beads of sweat dripped from his forehead, and he clenched his teeth, obviously enduring great pain. Half an hour later, a drop of extremely pure blood appeared on Chu Jianqiu's fingertips. This drop of blood contained extremely pure energy. Chu Jianqiu slowly tapped the drop of essence and blood containing pure yang energy on Liu Tianyao eyebrows. Liu Tianyao eyebrows absorbed the essence and blood at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chu Jianqiu breathed a sigh of relief and took a few steps back. His face was pale, his clothes were completely soaked, and he almost collapsed on the ground. After half an hour, Liu Tianyao slowly opened his eyes, stood up from the stone, and a powerful icy aura erupted from his body. Seeing this scene, Chu Jianqiu finally let go of his heart and said with sincere joy, "You finally succeeded." "Yes, I finally succeeded." Liu Tianyao opened her red lips lightly and said slowly, but her voice was like 10,000 years of ice without any warmth. Although Chu Jianqiu felt a little strange, he didn't think it was strange. He just said that Liu Tianyao suddenly mastered the 3-Yin-Ju meridian and was affected by the bloodline, so his temperament changed temporarily. "So, you can die." However, when the next words came out of Liu Tianyao's mouth, the smile on Chu Jianqiu's face instantly froze. Chu Jianqiu couldn't believe his ears. He reluctantly smiled and said, "Yaoer, what did you just say?" He hoped that this was just Liu Tianyao joking with him. "I said, you can die." Liu Tianyao said coldly, with no emotion in his voice, and his eyes were cold and indifferent, looking at him condescendingly, without any of his usual gentleness. BSP, Chu Jianqiu stared at Liu Tianyao for a long time, and finally confirmed that Liu Tianyao was not joking, and the last bit of luck in his heart was completely shattered. Looking at Liu Tianyao, who looked like a completely different person, Chu Jianqiu felt as cold as if he had fallen into an ice cave, and the pain in his heart felt like it was being torn apart. This kind of pain was even worse than the pain he had endured when he forced the blood out just now. 10,000 times. Why? Because of the extreme pain in his heart, Chu Jianqiu seemed extremely calm at this time. He looked into Liu Tianyao's eyes and asked seriously, "How can you, a mountain pariah, be worthy of my noble bloodline? If not for the purpose of curing an illness, how could I condescend to get close to you? How many times have you offended me in the past 3 years, even if you die with 1,000 cuts? Even 1,000 times can't explain the hatred in my heart." Liu Tianyao said indifferently, his eyes full of coldness, contempt and disdain. "So, all this is just a conspiracy. I have devoted my blood and essence to you without interruption for 3 years, but it is worthless in your heart." Chu Jianqiu's heart was full of bitterness, pain, unwillingness, loss, anger, and a variety of emotions gathered in the chest. "Yes, all this is just a conspiracy. Otherwise, how could you not hesitate to waste your own essence and blood to treat me?" Liu Tianyao sneered. Chu Jianqiu looked at the completely unfamiliar girl in front of him, stretched out his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, and said with a sad smile, "If you want me to die, it doesn't matter if you completely control the Sannin Juame. What if my vitality is severely injured now? Can you kill me?" That even though he has not made any progress in his cultivation in 3 years, his cultivation in the true Qi realm is still not comparable to Liu Tianyao, a warrior at the 5th level of body refining. "Add me." A cold voice came from the forest nearby. Chu Jianqiu's heart was shocked, and he turned around and saw a young man in purple clothes slowly walking out of the forest. The young man's brows were full of unruliness and coldness, the second son of Tianshui County Sheriff, Ouyang Yuan. Chu Jianqiu recognized the person instantly. When Liu Tianyao saw the boy in purple, the frost on his face melted away like ice and snow, and he was instantly replaced by a flowery smile. She ran over happily, took the arm of the purple-clothed boy, and called out softly, "Second son." That when Chu Jianqiu saw this scene, he felt hatred, pain in his heart. He gritted his teeth and cursed secretly, "Bitch." Chu Jianqiu regained his composure and immediately ran towards the edge of the cliff. Ouyang Yuan's powerful Chu Jianqiu knew very well that even when he was at his peak, he might not be his opponent, not to mention that in such a bad situation now, the only way to survive was to escape. "I want to run, but it's too late." Ouyang Yuan shouted coldly, and his figure had already arrived in front of Chu Jianqiu. He struck out with a palm and hit Chu Jianqiu hard on the chest. Crack! Chu Jianqiu flew back several feet, several ribs on his chest were broken, and blood spurted out from his mouth. Chu Jianqiu was horrified that Ouyang Yuan, whom he hadn't seen for 3 years, was already a strong man at the 6th level of the true Qi realm. Chu Jianqiu fell into boundless despair in his heart. If he fell into their hands, he would really die this time. Ouyang Yuan came to Chu Jianqiu, looked at Chu Jianqiu at his feet indifferently, and said coldly, "This bloodline is really wasted on you, a country pariah. Today I will find a real owner for it." As he said that, he pressed a palm on Chu Jianqiu's chest. Chu Jianqiu instantly felt the Jiaoyang blood awakening in his body rushing towards Ouyang Yuan's palm, and his cultivation level began to plummet. Blood transfer magic skill. Chu Jianqiu was horrified that Ouyang Yuan dared to practice such forbidden secret techniques. "You two bastards, I will never let you go." Chu Jianqiu was so filled with hatred that he cursed crazily. Half an hour later, Chu Jianqiu's awakened Earth-level middle-grade bloodline and cultivation had all been transferred to Ouyang Yuan. Chu Jianqiu was dying at this time and had truly become a useless person. Ouyang Yuan felt the Jiaoyang blood in his body and suddenly let out a burst of proud laughter. He finally got what he had been planning for a long time. Ouyang Yuan was originally an Earth-level middle-grade bloodline warrior, but he awakened the 6-yang bloodline, which was far less pure than the 9-yang bloodline. Now that he has absorbed Chu Jianqiu's Jiaoyang bloodline, his bloodline will be even better. "Melt!" Ouyang Yuan shouted loudly, and the 6-yang bloodline and 9-yang bloodline in his body immediately began to merge. A quarter of an hour later, Ouyang Yuan's aura became strong. After the two bloodlines merged, his bloodline actually improved to a higher level, reaching the prefectural level. Bloodline. Ouyang Yuan looked at Liu Tianyao on the side, smiled slightly and said, "I will give this cultivation level of Chu Jianqiu to you. Practice it well. In 1 month, the Xianxia sex recruitment competition will be held." As he said that, he put a palm on Liu Tianyao's back, and Liu Tianyao's cultivation level began to rise crazily, and finally stopped after he was promoted to the 9th level of body refining. Liu Tianyao was overjoyed and smiled sweetly. "Thank you, second son. What are you going to do with this person?" Ouyang Yuan pointed at the half-dead Chu Jianqiu on the ground. Liu Tianyao glanced at Chu Jianqiu on the ground, and said with a sweet smile, "It would be too easy to kill him directly. Let him taste the feeling of falling from the sky to the ground, which is worse than death. Wouldn't it be worse? Wonderful," he said and slapped Chu Jianqiu's dantian with a wave of his hand. Chu Jianqiu screamed, his eyes darkened, and he fainted immediately. At this time, the sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, thunder was rolling, and streaks of lightning danced wildly in the sky. Click. A bolt of lightning tore through the sky, and the electric light hit the unconscious Chu Jianqiu on the ground. In the dazzling electric light, a small black tower followed the lightning and entered Chu Jianqiu's body. Chapter 2 Chaos Supreme Tower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "Liu Tianyao, you are so cruel." With a painful roar, Chu Jianqiu woke up from his nightmare, his face still full of pain and unwillingness. As his consciousness awakened, tearing pain spread from all parts of his body, causing his body to almost convulse. Chu Jianqiu hoped that everything that happened that night was just a nightmare. When he woke up from the nightmare, everything would return to its original beautiful track. But the pain radiating from all parts of his body made him realize clearly that this was not a dream, but a cruel reality. Liu Tianyao betrayed him and colluded with others to take away his awakened bloodline. Chu Jianqiu clenched his fists, his eyes were red, and a surge of anger rose in his chest. He must recover this debt from Liu Tianyao and Ouyang Yuan. "Master, you finally woke up, you really scared me to death." A clear voice came from the side, full of worry. Chu Jianqiu raised his head, and a pretty and charming little face came into view. "Enter the painting. How long have I been unconscious?" Seeing his personal maid, Chu Jianqiu felt a little at ease, and his tense nerves relaxed a little. "It's been a day and a night since Miss Liu sent the young master back." "Liu Tianyao sent me back." Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but be startled that this woman could be so kind. Miss Liu handed the young master over to the great elder at that time, saying that the young master had gone crazy during his practice. His dantian was destroyed and his meridians were all severed. He asked the great elder to take good care of him. Ru Hua nodded repeatedly, but his voice was full of anger and injustice. Chu Jianqiu felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly sank his mind into his body. Upon checking, Chu Jianqiu suddenly felt cold all over. Not only had his awakened bloodline and cultivation been taken away, but his dantian was also destroyed, and all his meridians were severed, turning him into a complete useless person. This result made Chu Jianqiu almost crazy. This woman's conscience was still intact. She wanted her life to be worse than death. What a vicious heart. Chu Jianqiu's heart was full of hatred. Even if your awakened bloodline and cultivation level are taken away, you can still practice again. Before you awakened your bloodline, you can still practice very quickly, but if dantian is abolished, you will be completely reduced to a useless person. Enter the painting, you go out first. Chu Jianqiu forced himself to calm down and said calmly. Yes, young master. Although Ru Hua was worried, he still followed the instructions and left. Chu Jianqiu was suddenly the only one left in the room. Chu Jianqiu felt endless reluctance in his heart and was unwilling to give up. He sat up cross-legged and began to use his skills in an attempt to reconcentrate his spiritual energy, but the broken dantian could not retain any spiritual energy at all. Chu Jianqiu tried again and again, but in vain. Chu Jianqiu gritted his teeth and continued practicing the exercises over and over again without giving up at all. If he was allowed to just be an ordinary person from now on, it would be better to die. As long as he has this life, he will never give up. The pain was accompanied by unyielding sweat that soaked his clothes, but countless failures never shook his firm determination. Dang dang, dang dang, dang dang. Chu Jianqiu could no longer remember how many times he had failed. When he was almost numb from pain, a vast voice suddenly came from his mind, like a big bell. Unyielding will can only open the divine tower. Break it and then stand up, refine the blood of the Supreme. The divine secret of the Emperor of Heaven, and realize the Hongmeng Dao. That the vast sound shook Chu Jianqiu's mind, and at the same time, a strong suction force tore at Chu Jianqiu's soul. Chu Jianqiu felt a sharp pain in his soul and came to a strange space. The space is vast and boundless. In the center of the space stands a black tower that towers into the sky. The tower exudes a vast and ancient atmosphere, as if endless time has been deposited. Chu Jianqiu looked at this scene in shock. The scene in front of him was completely beyond his understanding. Chu Jianqiu's mind felt another pain, and a huge amount of information poured into his mind. Chaos Supreme Tower. Chaos Heavenly Emperor Technique. The huge amounts of information almost overwhelmed Chu Jianqiu's mind. Before Chu Jianqiu could digest the astonishing information, the tall and majestic black tower suddenly buzzed, and countless golden light emitted from the tower poured into Chu Jianqiu's body. With the influx of golden light, Chu Jianqiu's broken dantian began to heal, and the broken meridians began to be connected. The astonishing changes in his body caused Chu Jianqiu's soul to exit that space, after a stick of incense. Chu Jianqiu's broken dantian had completely healed, and the broken meridians had been reconnected. Chu Jianqiu was so ecstatic that he almost shed tears with excitement. Only when you lose and find something do you realize how precious the things you once owned are. Chu Jianqiu observed his body carefully. The re-healed dantian was larger than before, and the meridians were countless times stronger. However, this is far from over. Chaos Heavenly Emperor's Technique. Refine the bloodline of the Supreme Chaos. Chaos Heavenly Emperor's Technique. Refine the bloodline of the Supreme Chaos. The majestic voice sounded in Chu Jianqiu's head again. The mysterious and profound magic formula emerged in Chu Jianqiu's mind. The bloodline of the Supreme Chaos. Chu Jianqiu was shocked. Supreme bloodline. This was completely beyond Chu Jianqiu's cognitive scope. In Chu Jianqiu's knowledge, the awakening of the warrior. Bloodlines are divided into 4 major levels: Huang level, Xian level, Earth level, and Heaven level. I have never heard of Supreme level bloodline. Earth level bloodline is already very rare. Even in the Dacian dynasty, it is extremely rare. As for the Heaven level bloodline, the entire Dacian dynasty does not know whether it exists. Supreme bloodline. This is a strange term that Chu Jianqiu has never heard of. Could this be the legendary ancient immortal bloodline? In ancient legends, it is rumored that there is an ancient bloodline that is extremely heaven-defying on top of the heaven-level bloodline. The power of this level of bloodline has exceeded the imagination of ordinary people. All warriors who awakened this level of bloodline became powerful and powerful without exception. Could it be that this Chaos Supreme bloodline is the legendary ancient immortal bloodline? Chu Jianqiu calmed down the shock in his heart and started practicing according to the magic formula in his mind. Although the Chaos Heavenly Emperor's technique is extremely mysterious, Chu Jianqiu's understanding is extremely high, and because it pours directly into Chu Jianqiu's mind, this method of inheritance is much easier to understand than Chu Jianqiu's slow reading of kung fu books. With the movement of his mind, Chu Jianqiu felt that a terrifying power deep in his blood was slowly awakening. This power was like a dormant ancient dragon. Once fully awakened, it would have the power to destroy the world. An hour later, the golden light that poured into Chu Jianqiu's body disappeared. Chu Jianqiu opened his eyes, clenched his fists, and felt the terrifying power dormant deep in his bloodline. He was shocked beyond measure. This was the power of the supreme bloodline. The Chaos Heavenly Emperor art refining absorbed the golden light pouring into his body, and at this time his cultivation level also returned to the third level of body refining. Boom! Before Chu Jianqiu could digest the shock caused by this huge change, a loud noise interrupted his thoughts. Chu Jianqiu came back from his thoughts and looked at the kicked-in door. Several figures walked in from the door arrogantly. The leader was a boy of 15 or 16 years old. Chu Jianqiu, I heard that your practice went too far and turned into a useless person. I came here to see you. He looked at the young man sitting cross-legged on the bed and said condescendingly, with a strong sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. Chu Jianqiu's eyes were slightly cold. He had already expected this scene. 3 years ago, when his father left the family to look for his mother, whom Chu Jianqiu had never met, the great elders began to eye the position of the head of the family. It's just that although his father left the family, his remaining prestige still made the great elders dare not act rashly. In addition, although his cultivation has not improved in the past 3 years, it is still difficult for the younger generation in the family to match him, and there are still many elders in the clan who support him. Now that his own cultivation has been abolished, the great elder's lineage is bound to be ready to make a move. Chu Jianqiu had already anticipated this scene when he heard that Liu Tianyao had handed him over to the great elder and told him that he was a useless person. Since you are a useless person, you are no longer the young master of the Chu family. You are no longer qualified to live in this mansion. I am here today to invite you out. He sneered and mocked. There was indescribable pride and joy in my heart. It was so satisfying to be able to torture this once aloof young master. Roll. Facing Chu's humiliation, Chu Jianqiu uttered one word coldly. Chu Jianqiu didn't want to waste too much time on such an unpopular little character. A sideline within a sideline was usually someone who couldn't get on the stage at all. Now the great elder's lineage has not taken action yet, but this kind of clown is dancing happily. How dare you tell me to get lost? The smile on Chu's face froze instantly. This loser actually dared to tell him to get out. It seems that you haven't recognized the reality yet, and you still think that you are the superior young master of the Chu family. Today, I will make you, a loser, sober up. He said viciously. As he spoke, he took a step forward and punched Chu Jianqiu. A loser with no cultivation base dares to be so arrogant. Today, he must be beaten until he kneels on the ground and calls him grandpa. Facing the punch from Chu Jianqiu did not evade and faced it with a fist. Boom! The two fists collided, and the air surged. Chu was knocked back several steps by the punch. Chu was shocked, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. Wasn't Chu Jianqiu's dantian broken and his cultivation all gone? What was going on now? The eyes of the people who came with Chu also had expressions of disbelief, and they began to panic in their hearts. They originally thought that Chu Jianqiu was a useless person, so they dared to follow Chu here. They thought that they could make a contribution and show their face in the great elder's lineage in advance, and maybe they could enter the direct lineage in the future, but if Chu Jianqiu had not lost his cultivation, their good days would have come to an end. If Chu Jianqiu really became a useless person, naturally not many people would care. Even if some elders wanted to punish them because of their previous relationship with Chu Jianqiu, but with the great elders protecting them, those elders would not care. It would be too difficult for them for a waste. But now this situation has completely exceeded their expectations. Chu Jianqiu stood up from the bed, landed on the ground, stepped forward, and punched him again. With this punch, Chu Jianqiu did not spare any force. Chu Jianqiu was not generous enough to turn a blind eye to the humiliation that came to him. He wanted to teach these people a profound lesson. He gritted his teeth. Although he was a little unprepared for the changes in front of him, the aura exuded by Chu Jianqiu showed that he was only at the third level of body refining. Although it was not useless, it was a fact that his cultivation had plummeted, and since I am at the fourth level of body refining, there is no need to be afraid of him. He regained his courage and punched Chu Jianqiu head-on. Boom! Chu's body was shaken and flew straight away, hitting the wall, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. He was horrified, and his eyes were full of disbelief. Is this the strength of the third level of body refining? Chapter 3: The Tyranny of Supreme Bloodline. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roll! Chu Jianqiu shouted coldly. The few people watching on the side quickly helped Chu He and walked away dejectedly. Chu He glanced at Chu Jianqiu bitterly before leaving, but did not dare to say any more nonsense. He is no match for Chu Jianqiu now. If he really angers Chu Jianqiu, he will not end well. When Chu He and others left Chu Jianqiu's room, in the corridor of a wing in the distance, a young man in green shirt watched the scene silently, frowning slightly. Chu Jianqiu watched Chu He and others leave and fell into deep thought. Although he defeated Chu He today, Chu Jianqiu was not very happy. A clown was not something to be afraid of. The trouble lay behind him. Although Chu He was defeated by him, he also figured out his own details. He thought that the great elder's lineage would soon attack, and his current cultivation level was far from enough to cope with these upcoming difficulties. You must improve your cultivation as soon as possible. Chu Jianqiu secretly decided in his heart. He clenched his fists and felt the terrifying power hidden in his body. Thinking of the scene where he defeated Chu He just now, Chu Jianqiu deeply felt the terror of this power. Chu Jianqiu ignored the information that poured into his mind for the time being. The information was so huge that if he had to sort it out from the beginning, it would probably take less than 10.5 days to sort it out, but in the current situation he was facing, there was simply not enough time for Chu Jianqiu to sort it out slowly. If there is not enough self-protection, I am afraid that the Chu family will no longer have a foothold of its own in the future, and may even be in danger of life. If he really turned into a useless person, it would be fine. The great elder was too lazy to argue too much with a useless person, and maybe he could still save his life. However, his current cultivation level has plummeted, but the great elder will never let him have another chance to rise, thereby interrupting his plan for the position of the head of the family, and will definitely try every means to strangle him. The only way to protect yourself and survive is to improve your strength as soon as possible. The Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique is obviously a powerful basis for improving one's strength. He had just awakened the bloodline of the Supreme Chaos by practicing the Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique. Before he could further study this technique, he was interrupted by Chu He. The technique of the Chaos Heavenly Emperor is a technique created by an ancient great master who gained insights from the creation of the world and how chaos evolved all things, and thus attained the great way of chaos. The great power that existed before the creation of the world was the ancient gods and demons before the chaos began. It was difficult for Chu Jianqiu to imagine what level of terrifying existence this was. The techniques created by beings of this level are many times more advanced than the techniques I practiced before. Chu Jianqiu has already felt the terror of this technique by awakening the bloodline of the Supreme Chaos through practicing this technique. Chu Jianqiu did not waste time and continued to practice the Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique. As Chu Jianqiu activated the Chaos Heavenly Emperor art, the spiritual energy around him surged like crazy, pouring into Chu Jianqiu's body crazily. Chu Jianqiu's aura climbed at a speed visible to the naked eye. An hour later, Chu Jianqiu opened his eyes full of shock. In this hour of practice, he has completely consolidated his cultivation at the third level of body refining. In the past, it was because he absorbed the golden light that his cultivation level rose to the third level in an instant, but now he cultivates purely by absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If he continues at this rate, I am afraid that he will be able to restore his previous cultivation level in half a year at most. The Chaos Emperor technique is so terrifying, but in this current situation, I can't wait until half a year later. It would be fine if I didn't have this adventure, but since God is lucky, I have to fight for myself. Chu Jianqiu took out a body-tempering pill and drank it. Although the speed of practicing the Chaos Heavenly Emperor art was already terrifying, it was not enough. After the elixir entered his abdomen, within a few breaths, the powerful medicinal power spread out in his abdomen, and surging spiritual power surged throughout his body. After a stick of incense, Chu Jianqiu had already used the medicinal power of this body-tempering pill for his own use. Chu Jianqiu was ecstatic in his heart. The domineering and powerful bloodline of the Supreme Chaos really brought him constant surprises. In the past, it would take at least 1 day to refine a body-tempering pill by yourself, and at least 5 days to fully digest and absorb it. Since every elixir contains impurities, it takes time to eliminate the impurities while absorbing the potency. In the past, I could not take more than 3 body-tempering pills a month. Otherwise the accumulation of impurities would exceed my own elimination speed, which would cause damage to the body. But now, Chu Jianqiu clenched his fist and refined the body-tempering pill in a few breaths. It took only a stick of incense to completely absorb the potency. This speed was many times faster than before, and the impurities in the pill were actually eliminated in an instant. Dissolved by the power in the blood, this means that I can continuously swallow pills in the future without worrying about any side effects. Chu Jianqiu took out a large handful of body-tempering pills and ate them one by one, like eating jelly beans. That is to say, he is the young master of the Chu family, so he can be so wealthy. Each of these body-tempering pills, all are valuable. The powerful medicinal power swept through the body, and Chu Jianqiu's aura increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. But while eating, Chu Jianqiu realized something was wrong. From the 3rd level of body refining to the 4th level of body refining, 5 body-tempering pills are enough to break through, but now he has taken 15 body-tempering pills. Although Chu Jianqiu feels that his strength has been greatly improved, he is still far away from the breakthrough. The 4th level of body refining is still far away. The dantian is like a bottomless pit swallowing up a large amount of spiritual energy, and it cannot be filled no matter how much it is filled. Chu Jianqiu gritted his teeth, took out the body-tempering pill and continued to swallow it. Wait until you have swallowed 50 body-tempering pills. With a boom, he finally broke through to the 4th level of body refining. However, Chu Jianqiu's face turned dark and his hands were trembling. 50 body-tempering pills, damn, this is really a big devourer of pills. 50 body-tempering pills, this is all Chu Jianqiu's current savings. Just breaking through the 4th level of body refining requires 50 body-tempering pills. Chu Jianqiu can't imagine how to practice in the future. Just thinking about the pills that need to be consumed makes people despair. It is estimated that even if the entire Chu family's resources are invested in himself, he will not be able to sustain his own consumption, but the power gained from these 50 body-tempering pills. Chu Jianqiu clenched his fist and punched in front of him. Boom! The powerful force broke through the air, and the churning waves overflowed, shattering the tables and chairs in the room. Feeling the powerful power surging in his body, Chu Jianqiu estimated that he was much stronger than ordinary warriors at the 6th level of body refining at this time, and could compete with warriors at the 7th level of body refining. Chu Jianqiu stood up with his fists closed, but saw Ruhua walking in from outside. The little girl's eyes were red and half of her cheek was swollen. Although she deliberately covered it with makeup, Chu Jianqiu could still see the clear fingerprints on it. Master, I brought you some healing medicine. That the little girl took out a small porcelain bottle and forced a smile. When Chu Jianqiu saw Ruhua's appearance, he knew what happened without even thinking about it. It's just that this little girl has always been very strong. Even if she was wronged outside, she would never take the initiative to tell herself for fear of worrying herself, but would suffer it silently alone. It's useless just to draw a picture, you can only use the lowest level of golden sore medicine. That the little girl lowered her little head and was about to cry. If I didn't force myself to hold back, I'm afraid it would have been like pear blossoms and rain. Chu Jianqiu took the small porcelain bottle, stretched out his hand to rub Ruhua's head, and said softly, "Don't be sad, the young master is fine. Finally unable to bear it any longer, he threw himself into Chu Jianqiu's arms and burst into tears. Chu Jianqiu gently hugged her delicate body and comforted her softly. Chu Jianqiu's eyes turned cold as he looked at the bottle of low-quality golden sore medicine in his hand, which was not even a first-grade elixir, and the crying little girl in his arms. These people are really bullying others too much. One day, I will ask these people to pay back everything they owe me. However, Chu Jianqiu was not carried away by his anger. His current strength was still too weak and he was not suitable for a head-on conflict with them, so he had to endure it for the time being. When he is strong enough, he can recover these debts one by one. Strength, everything is strength. Ru Hua, stay at home and don't go anywhere. Chu Jianqiu comforted the little girl, gave instructions, and walked out. Master, your injury. Ru Hua said anxiously. The young master was so seriously injured and had to run out. Wouldn't it be even more dangerous? Don't worry, it's not in the way. Chu Jianqiu left the mansion master's courtyard and walked to the Dan pavilion. As long as you have enough pills, your cultivation level can be improved quickly. Hey, isn't this young master Chu Jianqiu? As soon as Chu Jianqiu stepped into the Dan pavilion, a mocking voice came from the side. Chu Jianqiu ignored it and continued walking inside. Oh, young master Chu has such a big air. As soon as the voice fell, a purple figure stopped in front of him. This figure is a girl of 15 or 16 years old, with a pretty face, but the mocking frivolity on her face at this time is annoying. Chu Jiaoyue, what do you want? Chu Jianqiu frowned and said coldly, this woman followed him like a follower 3 years ago. When her cultivation stagnated, she immediately distanced herself. Chu Jianqiu had no good impression of such a snobbish woman. I don't want to do anything, I just want to know why you, a waste with a broken dantian, come to the Dan pavilion. Are you taking the elixir now? Is it still useful? Even if you feed this elixir to a dog, maybe you can feed it to a spirit. The beast comes, but if it lands in your belly, it's a pure waste. Cack. Chu Jiaoyue said, letting out a burst of giggles, and the people around him laughed loudly and gathered around, as if they were watching a show. Chapter 4 Chu Jiaoyue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Jianqiu narrowed his eyes slightly, with a faint coldness in his gaze. He used to only think that this woman was just a snobbery, but he didn't expect that she was so mean and had such a poisonous heart. When she saw him in trouble, she would immediately come to add insult to injury. Get lost. Chu Jianqiu shouted coldly. Chu Jiaoyue's face suddenly turned cold, and she said in a cold voice, Chu Jianqiu, you still think you are that arrogant young master? A mere loser dares to be so arrogant to this young lady. You really don't know how to live or die. If you don't get out of the way, don't blame me for being rude. Chu Jianqiu's patience with these repeated provocations has reached its limit. You're not polite to me. Chu Jiaoyue seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. Did you hear that this loser actually said you were not polite to me? The bystanders also laughed, their faces full of ridicule. Chu Jiaoyue is a warrior at the 6th level of body refining, and she can kill Chu Jianqiu with just one palm. Chu Jianqiu actually dared to shout at her. This was a big joke. I want to see how you can be rude to me today. If you want pills, kneel down and beg me like your little girl. Maybe I will be compassionate and reward you with 1 or 2 pills. Chu Jiaoyue said coldly. It's you who hit Ru Hua. Chu Jianqiu's eyes suddenly revealed an icy cold light. Although Ru Hua was his maid, she had served him since she was a child, and he had long regarded Ru Hua as his own sister. Seeing the coldness in Chu Jianqiu's eyes, Chu Jiaoyue couldn't help but stir up a shiver in Lingling. Then she felt extremely ashamed and angry. Such a loser dared to scare her. Today, he will definitely make him kneel down and beg for mercy. No. You bitch. Chu Jianqiu spat out 4 words coldly. There was silence all around. This guy is really brave. Chu Jiaoyue is not only a warrior at the 6th level of body refining, but also a direct descendant of the Great Elder. To scold her like this is to seek death. Chu Jiaoyue blushed instantly, became furious, and shouted angrily, "You are looking for death." As he said that, he slapped Chu Jianqiu with a palm. Everyone could already predict Chu Jianqiu's fate. This slap was a real one. Even if Chu Jianqiu didn't die, he would have to lie in bed for the rest of his life, but what happened next was so shocking that the whole place fell into silence. Chu Jianqiu waved his hand casually, and Chu Jiaoyue flew out like a broken cattail, blood spurted out from his mouth, and he lay on the ground unable to stand up again. Chu Jiaoyue's face was full of disbelief. Didn't it mean that his dantian was broken and he became a useless person? How could he still have such strong strength? If Chu Jianqiu had not lost his cultivation, she would not dare to attack Chu Jianqiu even if she had 10 courages. Even though Chu Jianqiu had not made any progress in his cultivation in the past 3 years, he was still the only warrior among the younger generation of the Chu family to break through to the true Qi realm, which was far beyond what they and others could compete with. "Chu Jianqiu, what are you doing? You dare to use force in the Dan pavilion." The elder of the pavilion hurried over at this time and hurriedly asked the people next to him to help Chu Jiaoyue for treatment. If Chu Jiaoyue made a mistake, he couldn't afford the consequences. "Is it because the elder's eyes are dim and he didn't see her first move on me?" Chu Jianqiu said coldly. The elder guarding the pavilion was at a loss for words. As a mere elder guarding the pavilion, he did not want to get involved in these struggles. If this kind of thing went wrong, he would be broken into pieces if he was not careful. Although the great elder is powerful, there are also many elders who support Chu Jianqiu among the 10 elders. Although he is also an elder, as an elder guarding the Dan pavilion, he is far from comparable to the top 10 elders. If it were Chu Jian, Qiuzhen has become a loser, and he will side with the great elder without hesitation, because no one will support a loser. Even if some elders will save Chu Jianqiu's life because of their past love, they will not support him as before, but the current situation is a bit confusing. If Chu Jianqiu has really broken his dantian and turned into a useless person, it is impossible for him to still be as powerful as he is now. Moreover, even the elders guarding the pavilion were a bit confused about Chu Jianqiu's depth. Judging from the aura Chu Jianqiu just exuded, he was clearly a warrior at the 4th level of body refining. But looking at the ease with which he defeated Chu Jiaoyue, his performance what he produced was at least the strength of the 7th level of body refining. The elder who guarded the pavilion was not sure about Chu Jianqiu's details for a while, and did not want to offend him too much. He twitched the corner of his mouth and forced a smile and said, "I wonder what your purpose is in coming to Dan pavilion, young master. I haven't received this month's elixir yet, so naturally I came to the Dan pavilion to receive my share of this month's elixir." Chu Jianqiu said calmly. The elder guarding the pavilion looked at Chu Jianqiu, pondered for a long time, then took out a bottle of elixir and handed it over. Chu Jianqiu took the porcelain bottle and took a look at it and suddenly became furious. "Elder, what do you mean?" Surprisingly, there were only 6 body-tempering pills in this porcelain bottle. According to his previous share, he could receive 3 qi-gathering pills. The body-tempering pill and the qi-gathering pill are completely different from each other. The body-tempering pill is only a 1st-grade pill, while the qi-gathering pill is a 2nd-grade pill. The difference in efficacy between the two is more than 10 times. The elder guarding the pavilion forced a smile and said, "Young master also knows that the distribution of the Dan pavilion's shares is determined based on each person's cultivation level. The young master used to have a 1st-level cultivation level in the true Qi realm, so he naturally received Qi-gathering pills. But now..." Chu Jianqiu snorted coldly, picked up the 6 body-tempering pills and turned around. "What Elder Shuj said is not wrong. The resources of the Chu family are allocated according to their cultivation level and status. The direct descendants of the Chu family head and the top 10 elders can receive alchemy pills for free every month based on their personal cultivation level. The pavilion receives a certain amount of elixirs. If other warriors from the sideline want to obtain resources, they must exchange them with a certain amount of merit." Chu Jianqiu looked at the bottle of elixir in his hand and couldn't help but feel worried. 6 body-tempering pills, even in the past, were not enough to break through the 5th level of body refining, let alone now. It was simply a drop in the bucket. I originally thought that I could receive 3 qi-gathering pills. With the powerful medicinal power of qi-gathering pills, 3 pills could barely help me break through the 5th level of body refining, but now. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but slap his forehead, so sad. It seems that I have to find a way to get the elixir from somewhere else. Chu Jianqiu returned to the room and had already packed up the broken tables and chairs in the room. Master, I heard that Master Chu Han has proposed to the Council of Elders to compete for the position of young master of the Chu family in the clan competition 10 days later, and the Council of Elders has agreed. Ru Hua wrinkled his face and said with worry. Chu Jianqiu was startled when he heard this, and sneered in his heart. The great elders finally couldn't help but start taking action. Chu Jianqiu knew very well that the old guys in the Presbyterian church were smarter than the last. Even though there were so many elders supporting him now, if he was really a waste, most of those old guys would immediately fall to the side of the great elder. Now the news that his dantian was broken and turned into waste has been widely circulated, but those old guys will not believe it easily without personal confirmation. This battle 10 days later will be crucial. If he loses to Chu Han, the Chu family will no longer have a foothold. At that time, even if the elder takes action to harm his own life, as long as it is not too blatant, those old guys will turn a blind eye. Chapter 5: The Inheritance of the 10,000 Source Talisman Array. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5: The Inheritance of the 10,000 Source Talisman Array. 10 days, not much time left for yourself. Chu Jianqiu knew that time was very tight and he must find a way to improve his strength as soon as possible within these 10 days. Chu Han is not comparable to the likes of Chu He and Chu Jiaoyue. As the great elder's direct grandson, Chu Han is a warrior at the 9th level of body refining and is extremely powerful. Before he was deposed by Liu Tianyao, among the younger generation of the Chu family, Chu Han was only weaker than himself. With his current strength, he is far from Chu Han's opponent. Chu Jianqiu rubbed Ru Hua's head and said with a smile, "Don't worry, the young master has his own way. You go out first, the young master has to practice." Ru Hua agreed and exited the room obediently. Chu Jianqiu sat cross-legged on the bed, thinking about how to improve his strength as soon as possible. Currently, there are only 2 ways to improve one's strength. One is to practice more powerful martial arts, and the other is to improve one's cultivation level. As for martial arts, Chu Jianqiu has already learned the basic martial arts of the Chu family. I know the martial arts of the Chu family, and Chu Han is not far behind. As for improving one's cultivation, this requires a large amount of pills. By the way, I have not yet entered the Chaos Supreme Tower in my Sea of Consciousness. I have seen the power of the Chaos Heavenly Emperor art and the Chaos Supreme bloodline. I think this Chaos Supreme Tower cannot be a mortal thing. It says maybe it's something that will help you improve your strength. Chu Jianqiu's mind moved, and his soul entered his Sea of Consciousness, and the vast ancient tower stood majestically. Chu Jianqiu looked at this giant tower seriously for the first time. The previous time he was pulled out before he had time to take a closer look, and he had no idea what this giant tower was like. After careful observation, Chu Jianqiu found that although the huge black tower was vast and majestic, the tower was full of cracks, like a dilapidated tower temple that had been in disrepair and would collapse at any time. Chu Jianqiu walked to the foot of the tower, reached out and gently pushed the door open, and walked in. The scene inside the tower shocked Chu Jianqiu. Streams of light floated and danced in the tower. Those streams of light formed a series of extremely mysterious runes, and there were extremely complicated formations on the ground, the inheritance of the Talisman formation of 10,000 origins. When seeing this scene in front of him, corresponding information emerged in Chu Jianqiu's mind. Talisman formation, this is the most profound secret art in Tianwu continent. Talisman master is also the most respected profession in Tianwu continent. Everything in the world of warriors in the Tianwu continent is inseparable from the rune formation. The weapon refiner needs the formation when refining the magic weapon, and the formation of the magic weapon needs to be inscribed with runes. Alchemy is inseparable from the talisman array. When practicing, you need to set up a spirit gathering array to gather spiritual energy. The defense of the mountain gate requires the deployment of a large formation to protect the sect of the mountain gate. When you want fire, you need a fire charm. When you want water, you need a water charm. To fly to the sky and escape from the earth, you need the flying talisman and the earth escaping talisman. The talisman array is a great visualization of the movement of heaven and earth. It is an extremely profound skill that conquers the creation of heaven and earth. and these flying lights in front of you are the inheritance of extremely powerful talisman formations. Chu Jianqiu stared at the runes and looked at them one by one. Fire Talisman, Water Charm, Wind Talisman, Divine Talisman, Fantasy Array, Maze, Lihua Formation. Chapter 6 Liu Gaoyang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wanwu Trading Company, Lingfu Pavilion. Chu Jianqiu carried more than 10 painted talismans and planned to rent a stall to sell them. Although these talismans can also be sold directly to Lingfu Pavilion, the price is not as high as setting up a stall to retail. After all, Lingfu Pavilion has to earn some price difference from purchasing the talismans. Chu Jianqiu was extremely poor at this time, and he couldn't bear the price difference. Spirit talismans are a hot commodity in Tianwu continent, and Chu Jianqiu is not worried about sales at all. Even though Chu Jianqiu easily drew the talisman, it was the powerful inheritance of the talisman array in the Chaos Supreme Tower and his extremely high understanding that allowed him to master the key to drawing the talisman in a very short period of time. If it were anyone else, I don't know how long it would take just to get started. From a beginner to successfully drawing the first talisman, it will take at least half a year for those with high talent, and it may not necessarily succeed in 2 or 3 years if the talent is less. Talisman formations are difficult and obscure, and require more talent and understanding than alchemy and weapon refining. There may not be even one talisman formation master among 100,000 people, which leads to the extreme scarcity of talisman formation masters in Tianwu continent. Talisman masters are generally divided into talisman masters and formation masters, because only a very small number of talented people can master both talismans and formations at the same time, and ordinary talisman masters can only specialize in one direction. Every talisman master is a resource that all parties are eager to grab. There are not many people selling spiritual talismans in the Lingfu Pavilion, but there are huge crowds of people buying spiritual talismans. Wanwu Trading Company was the largest trading house in the Daqian dynasty. It did business throughout the entire Daqian dynasty. There were hundreds of counties in the Daqian dynasty, and each county had a branch of Wanwu Trading Company. The business scope of Wanwu Trading Company is very wide, including spiritual talismans, formations, elixirs, magic weapons, exercises. Wanwu Trading Company is involved in almost all businesses in the world of warriors. Mr. Chu, can your strength increasing talisman really double your strength? Not long after Chu Jianqiu put up the sign, he welcomed his first customer. A man with a resolute face and a bit of simplicity came to Chu Jianqiu's stall and asked. However, from the look on his face, it was obvious that he didn't quite believe in the effect of this power-enhancing talisman. But it's no wonder that the effect of first-level power-increasing talismans is generally 30%, and 50% is extremely rare. Above 50%, it is only possible to achieve it unless a second-level talisman master takes action. As for doubling the power, there has never been such a power-increasing talisman in Xianxia County. Chu Jianqiu used to only focus on cultivation. Before getting the Chaos Supreme Tower, he didn't know much about the talisman array. And now all the information he knows about the talisman array comes from the Chaos Supreme Tower. He didn't know how incredible the talisman arrays in the Chaos Supreme Tower were. If any talisman array inside was taken out, even the lowest level talisman array, it would have a huge shock to the Daqian dynasty's talisman arrays. Of course it can be doubled. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Since it was his first time making talismans, he was not yet proficient in drawing talismans. The effect of these talismans was far from what he expected. He originally had I'm a bit worried that no one will buy these power-enhancing charms because they are too weak. But looking at this man's reaction now, it seems that the power of this power-increasing talisman is too high and I don't believe it. Hey, the increase is doubled. How arrogant is this? Even Pavilion Master Yang would not dare to say such big words. The dignified young master of the Chu family, once the #1 genius in Xianxia County, after his dantian was shattered and his cultivation base was completely lost, actually reduced to doing this kind of anti-abduction. The level of deception is really pathetic. A young man wearing brocade clothes and holding a folding fan slowly walked over, his face full of arrogance, followed by several fawning gangsters. Chu Jianqiu's eyes were slightly cold. Liu Gaoyang, Liu Qianyao's younger brother, Chu Jianqiu doesn't have the slightest fondness for the Liu family now, and he gets angry when he sees someone from the Liu family, not to mention that this person is Liu Qianyu's younger brother. He hadn't gone to trouble the Liu family, but people from the Liu family had come to join him. Liu Gaoyang is quite talented in the talisman formation. He has been worshipped by an elder of Lingfu Pavilion since he was a child. He is now a well-known first-class talisman master in Qianxia City. Zhao Cheng, you are so anxious now that you seek medical treatment in a hurry. You actually believe in the magic talisman drawn by such a waste. This waste is not even a warrior now. He has no real energy in his body. How can he draw a talisman? And his strength is doubled. Li Fu, ha ha ha, it really made me laugh to death. Liu Gaoyang looked at Chu Jianqiu and laughed, his face full of contempt, disdain and ridicule. Why, young Master Chu has already gotten into this kind of situation, relying on deceit and abduction to make a living. If you are really short of money, kneel down and kowtow to this young master. Maybe I will be merciful and reward you with a few spiritual stones. That's right, it's much easier to make money by kneeling down and kowtowing a few times than by making up a power-enhancing talisman that can double your strength. Kneel down and kowtow to our young master, and you will get spiritual stones. What a cost-effective deal. The risk of selling fake talismans is quite high, and I don't know how to make up a decent lie. Who can be deceived by such a lie that can be seen through at a glance? It seems that after the eldest young master of the Chu family Dantian was disabled, there is something wrong with my brain. Those losers also started making noises. Such a commotion immediately attracted the people around him. After all, this one was once the #1 genius in Qianxia City, and the other was a well-known first-level talisman master in Qianxia City. Both of them were not small figures. This excitement was quite interesting. In recent days, rumors have spread that the former #1 genius in Qianxia City had his dantian broken and became a useless person. Most people are dubious about this widespread rumor. After all, Chu Jianqiu was once known as the #1 genius in Qianxia City, and suddenly his dantian was shattered because of his cultivation. This thing is a bit weird no matter how it sounds. Today is a good time to see whether this rumor is true or not. Where did a bunch of crazy dogs come from embarked here? Chu Jianqiu shouted impatiently. Clowns like Liu Gaoyang were not taken seriously by him at all. The real threats to him were the Great Elder and Ouyang Yuan. Class characters, of course. Liu Tianyao, who has complete control of the 3 Yin-Ju meridians and obtained his cultivation level, is also enough to pose a threat to him. Now that his time is extremely tight, he has no time to tangle with clowns like Liu Gaoyang. If it weren't for the fact that the use of force was strictly prohibited in Wanwu Trading Company, Chu Jianqiu would have slapped the idiot in front of him unconscious to prevent him from making endless noises in front of him. Liu Gaoyang's laughter suddenly stopped, like a gander being pinched by the neck. What did this loser just call him? A mad dog. Liu Gaoyang was furious in an instant and was called a mad dog by a loser in public. This was an unbearable shame for him. You wanna die? Liu Gaoyang took action with anger and punched Chu Jianqiu. Chapter 7 Punch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Jianqiu smiled coldly. It was a good thing that Liu Gaoyang was willing to take action. Chu Jianqiu didn't even know how he survived to this day for such an idiot. Even when Chu Jianqiu was at his peak, he did not dare to break the rules of Wanwu Trading Company. In front of such a behemoth as Wanwu Trading Company, the 4 major families in Qianxia City are just a joke. Wanwu Trading Company is never polite to those who dare to break its rules. Challenging the rules of Wanwu Trading Company is equivalent to challenging the majesty of Wanwu Trading Company. Since Liu Gaoyang took the lead, Chu Jianqiu no longer had any scruples. Liu Tianyao would first collect interest from his brother for the debt he owed. Boom! Chu Jianqiu punched out. He used all his strength to punch this time, and he used a high-level Huang-level martial art, mountain-splitting fist. The martial arts practiced by warriors are divided into yellow level, Xian level, earth level and heaven level, and each level is divided into low grade, middle grade, high grade and extreme grade. Split mountain fist is a Huang-level high-grade martial arts. This martial art is unparalleled in strength. It is the best among the Huang-level high-grade martial arts. It is even comparable to some Huang-level top-grade martial arts. Chu Jianqiu has already mastered this martial art. Martial arts have been practiced to the extreme. When he fought with Chu Jiaoyue before, he still had some strength left. After all, they were of the same race. Before they really broke up with each other, Chu Jianqiu didn't want to go too far and just taught her a lesson, but when dealing with Liu Gaoyang, Chu Jianqiu showed no mercy and went all out when he made a move. There is a life-and-death feud between him and the Liu family, and sooner or later there will be a life-and-death battle, so there is absolutely no need to worry. When Liu Gaoyang saw that Chu Jianqiu actually dared to confront him, he sneered in his heart. This loser thought he was the #1 genius in Tianshui city who had not lost his cultivation. He was really looking for death, but when the two fists collided, Liu Gaoyang felt an overwhelming force coming from the opposite side, and he was suddenly horrified as to what was going on, but even if something bad happened at this moment, it was already too late to dodge. Crack! That with a crisp sound, Liu Gaoyang's arm was broken into several pieces, twisted like a twist, and the whole person flew backwards like a kite with broken strings. Liu Gaoyang was shocked to the extreme. What was going on? Didn't my sister say that this trash had his dantian broken and his cultivation base completely lost? How could he still be so strong? Those who were watching were stunned for a moment, and they couldn't understand the scene in front of them. Didn't it mean that Chu Jianqiu's dantian was broken and his cultivation was completely lost? What was going on in the scene before him? To say that the rumor was false, Chu Jianqiu's cultivation level was only at the 4th level of body refining. But to say that the rumor is true, this 4th level body refining fighter knocked away a 6th level body refining warrior with one punch. Could it be that the eldest young master of the Chu family is deliberately hiding his strength? Although Liu Gaoyang was knocked away by a punch, Chu Jianqiu had no intention of letting him go. He stepped forward and punched Liu Gaoyang in the chest. If the punch was hit, Liu Gaoyang would not die even if he was not dead. Will become useless. Those losers were completely stunned by this sudden change, and they all froze on the ground, unable to realize what was going on. But even if they had reacted, they didn't dare to do anything. If Chu Jianqiu was a waste, they would still dare to ridicule him and find the pleasure of torturing this down-and-out genius. But if Chu Jianqiu, the cultivation level is still there, but even if you give them 10 courages, they won't dare to attack Chu Jianqiu. The prestige accumulated by the first genius of Tianshui city cannot be ignored. Trampling a few of them to death is no different from trampling to death a few ants. Stop! An angry shout came, and a figure flashed and patted Chu Jianqiu. Before the palm even reached his body, Chu Jianqiu could already feel the terrifying power contained in this palm. Chu Jianqiu did not dare to take a hard hit, and used the phantom movement technique to quickly retreat. However, that body technique did not intend to let Chu Jianqiu go, and followed him like a shadow. Chu Jianqiu knew very well that with his current cultivation level, he was no match for the man in front of him. If he continued to entangle himself, he would definitely be seriously injured by this man without making 3 moves, so he hurriedly shouted, "Wait!" The figure paused and stopped. Only then did everyone see the person clearly. He was an old man in grey robes with a stern face. When everyone saw this old man, their hearts tightened. Liang Jiushan, the law enforcement elder of Lingfu Pavilion. Now Chu Jianqiu and Liu Gaoyang will be in trouble. Liang Jiushan is known for his selflessness and will show no mercy to those who dare to violate the rules of Wanwu Trading Company. What can you say? Liang Jiushan said with a stern face. If he hadn't always had a good sense of the former #1 genius in Tianshui city, otherwise, he would have to knock down the person who dared to break the rules of Wanwu Trading Company first. Let him argue. Why did Elder Liang attack me indiscriminately? Chu Jianqiu said, neither humble nor arrogant. Indiscriminate? You did it in Lingfu Pavilion, and you dare to say that I am indiscriminate. Liang Jiushan was instantly angry. Elder Liang must first ask who made the move first. Chu Jianqiu couldn't help but feel helpless. Although Liang Jiushan was upright, he also had a bad temper. Liang Jiushan couldn't help but was stunned and asked, didn't you make the first move? In the situation just now, he subconsciously thought that Chu Jianqiu made the first move. Judging from the situation just now, Liu Gaoyang is no match for Chu Jianqiu. It was a one-sided crushing state. Who would be so stupid as to risk destroying Wanwu when he is clearly not his opponent? According to the rules of the trading house, take the initiative to provoke the other party. It was Liu Gaoyang who attacked me first just now. Everyone saw this. Chu Jianqiu said calmly. Hearing this, Liang Jushan waved over a deacon disciple of Lingfu Pavilion and asked in a deep voice, "What happened just now?" If Chu Jianqiu dared to lie to him, he would let Chu Jianqiu taste the price of daring to lie to him. The deacon disciple did not dare to hide anything and reported truthfully what happened just now. After hearing the report from the deacon disciple, Liang Jushan's face turned completely cold. Liu Gaoyang is a disciple of Chang Gaochen, the elder of Lingfu Pavilion. It is impossible that he does not know the rules of Wanwu Trading Company. Knowing the law and breaking the law is an even greater crime. Liu Gaoyang looked at Liang Jushan's ugly face and panicked in his heart. He had long forgotten the heavy injuries on his body and said hurriedly, "Elder law enforcement, it was him who sold fake talismans in Lingfu Pavilion," so the disciple couldn't help but take action. That when Liang Jushan heard this, a sharp light flashed in his eyes, and his eyes towards Chu Jianqiu even contained a trace of murderous intent. Selling fake talismans in Lingfu Pavilion was something that seriously affected the reputation of Lingfu Pavilion. For this kind of Lingfu Pavilion has always had zero tolerance for things. "You haven't even seen my magic talisman, how can you be sure that my magic talisman is fake?" Chu Jianqiu said calmly, not at all panicked by Liang Jushan's gaze. Chapter 8 Gambling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The power-enhancing talisman that doubles the power, such an arrogant and exaggerated tone. Even if your spiritual talisman is true, it is an extreme fraud. Such false behavior, I, the Spirit Talisman Pavilion, will not tolerate you. Before Liang Jushan could say anything, a cold voice came over. When Liu Gaoyang saw the person coming, he shouted with great joy, "Master!" That the person who came was none other than Liu Gaoyang's master Chang Gaochen. When he heard his subordinates reporting the situation here, he was afraid that Mr. Liang would destroy his precious disciple regardless of the severity, so he hurried over. Seeing Liu Gaoyang's miserable look, Chang Gaochen burst out with anger in his heart. He looked at Chu Jianqiu with cold eyes and said, "Boy, you are really so rampant. Not only do you sell fake talismans in Lingfu Pavilion, but you also dare to take action. It hurts people. You really think that everyone in my Lingfu Pavilion is incompetent? Elder Chang is selling fake talismans one by one, and you are so sure that my spiritual talisman cannot double the effect." Chu Jianqiu said calmly without flinching, facing Chang Gaochen's cold gaze. "You can't even tell how many pounds or taels you have with the doubled increase effect." Chang Gaochen sneered. He didn't believe that Chu Jianqiu could do this at all. This guy surnamed Chu has never heard of anyone from whom he learned the art of talisman formation. It's hard to say whether this kid can make talisman, let alone draw a talisman with this kind of effect. There is no one in the entire Tianshui County who can draw a power-increasing talisman with a doubling effect. In that case, does Elder Chang dare to take a gamble with me? Chu Jianqiu said with a faint smile. How to bet? Chang Gaochen became a little more interested when he saw Chu Jianqiu's confident look. He wanted to see what tricks this kid could pull off, selling counterfeit talismans in Lingfu Pavilion and using force in Lingfu Pavilion. These two crimes have already destined Chu Jianqiu to die today. If Chu Xianxia, the head of the Chu family, was still in Tianshui City, he might still be a little afraid. Now Chu Xianxia has left Tianshui City and has not been heard from for 3 years. Life and death are uncertain. There are many conflicts within the Chu family. Who would be afraid of such a young master of the Chu family who lives up to his reputation? Moreover, the news that Chu Jianqiu has become a waste has spread a lot in the past few days. Now it seems that although the rumors are wrong, it is true that Chu Jianqiu's cultivation level has plummeted. Otherwise, Liu Gaoyang would not have simply lost an arm. If my power-enhancing talisman cannot achieve the effect of doubling my strength, I, Chu Jianqiu, will be at Elder Chang's disposal. But if my power-enhancing talisman can achieve it, how about Elder Chang compensate me with 300 body tempering pills? Although my level of making talismans for the first time was not very good, it was more than enough to double the increase effect, 300 body tempering pills. Those onlookers couldn't help but gasp. This guy must have a huge appetite, 300 body tempering pills. Even if a strong person in the true energy realm takes them out, it will probably cause severe pain. If your power-increasing talisman can really double your strength, so what if I give you 500 body tempering pills? Chang Gaochen said without any care. For a dead man, no matter how much he is promised, the key is that he must live to get it. Okay, it's a deal. Chu Jianqiu said with a smile, feeling happy in his heart. Someone would give him a pillow when he dozed off. I was in need of a large amount of body tempering pills, and someone came to my door. Liang Jiushan did not stop the gambling fight between the two. Chu Jianqiu acted so confident. He wanted to see if this kid was really so real. If Chu Jianqiu could really refine a power-enhancing talisman that doubled in size, it would be a huge shock to the talisman formation world in Tianshui County. Although Liang Jiushan didn't quite believe that Chu Jianqiu could refine a spiritual talisman of this level, even Yang Zhenhai, the master of the Lingfu Pavilion, couldn't do it himself. The power of a spiritual talisman is mainly affected by two aspects: the grade of the spiritual talisman and the courage of the spiritual talisman. The grade of the spiritual talisman generally determines the level of power. For example, the first-level power-increasing talisman only increases the strength of warriors at the body-refining level, but it has minimal effect on warriors at the true energy level and above. Only the level power-enhancing talisman can be effective on warriors in the true energy realm. The talisman's talisman skull determines the effect of the talisman. It is also a first-level power-increasing talisman. A higher-level talisman will have a greater amplifying effect, while a lower-level talisman will have a smaller increase. The grades of Fu Dan are divided into 4 grades: low grade, medium grade, top grade and top grade. There are 2 factors that affect the quality of the talisman: the runes of the talisman and the method of making the talisman. It is also a power-increasing talisman, but the talisman refined by carving different runes has different levels of talismans. The level of the talismans refined from some crude runes would certainly not be too high. As for advanced runes, even if the refining technique is not very clever, the grade of the refined runes will be very high. The refining technique focuses on the ability of a talisman master to make talisman. For the same runes, the proficiency in refining the runes and the depth of understanding of the runes will affect the level of the talisman's courage. Therefore, a high-level talisman master may not necessarily be able to refine a high-level talisman. A talisman master's level can only prove that he can refine a talisman of that level. Even if a second-level talisman master can refine second-level talismans, if he does not have good low-level runes, he will not be able to refine first-level talismans with high-level talismans. Therefore, runes are generally the secrets of runes masters. Chu Jianqiu picked up the talisman and followed Chang Gaochen to the talisman measuring instrument in Lingfu Pavilion. The talisman tester of Lingfu Pavilion is placed in the center of the lobby on the first floor of Lingfu Pavilion. It can test the effects of the talismans of those who come to Lingfu Pavilion to buy and sell talismans at any time. At this time, the news of the gambling fight between Chu Jianqiu and Chang Gaochen had already spread throughout the Lingfu Pavilion. People around him rushed over, and the talisman detector was completely surrounded. Chang Gaochen looked at Chu Jianqiu with a sneer. He wanted to see how Chu Jianqiu would end up. Chu Jianqiu smiled slightly, took out a power-increasing talisman, and threw it into the talisman measuring instrument under everyone's joking eyes. Talisman name: strengthening talisman, talisman grade, first level, talisman grade, top grade, talisman effect, double the strength. Looking at the words shining on the symbol detector, the surroundings were completely silent. It turned out to be true. This guy's power-enhancing talisman could really double his strength. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them, with their mouths wide open and unable to close. Chang Gaochen looked at the lines of golden text on the talisman detector. He had never felt that these words were so dazzling as now. Liu Gaoyang even went crazy and kept mumbling to himself, "It's impossible, this can't be true. That I originally thought that the person in front of me was a waste who could be slaughtered by him, but now this waste not only crushed him in terms of strength, but also showed talent in talismans that eclipsed the entire Xianxia county. The person who stood proudly at the top of the crowd 3 years ago. The genius seems to have returned at this moment, shining as brightly as ever. Chapter 9 First Grade Talisman Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is not true. He must have used some means to fake it, or the talisman measuring instrument is broken today. How can this waste with a broken dantian be able to make talismans? Liu Gaoyang suddenly pointed at Chu Jianqiu like crazy. Shouted. Trash, you will embarrass me. Chang Gaochen became angry and slapped Liu Gaoyang on the face. This slap was made out of anger and he did not control his strength well. He slapped Liu Gaoyang away with his big teeth. Blood spurted out wildly, he rolled his eyes and fainted. Not only did Liu Gaoyang make him lose 500 body tempering pills in vain, but he also made him embarrassed in front of so many people. Now he dared to doubt Lingfu Pavilion's talisman measuring instrument. Doubting Lingfu Pavilion's talisman measuring instrument, isn't this a slap in the face of Lingfu Pavilion? Even Chang Gaochen may not be able to bear the consequences, not to mention that he, a small first-level talisman master, could slap him unconscious as soon as possible. To avoid causing bigger trouble, Liang Jiushan was also shocked. This boy could actually refine such a powerful talisman. It seemed that a great talisman master was about to appear in Xianxia County. Sometimes the boldness of a spiritual talisman can better reflect the level of a talisman master. A high-grade talisman master can only show that his power level is higher and he can mobilize more means, but it does not necessarily fully reflect his talisman skills. Tao level, the level of the talisman's gallbladder, can better reflect the potential of a talisman master. Today in Xianxia County, it seems that no one has been able to refine a talisman master with a talisman gallbladder that reaches the top level. Liang Jiushan's anger at Chu Jianqiu's use of force in Lingfu Pavilion had long since dissipated, leaving only shock and joy in his heart. Boy, are you interested in joining Lingfu Pavilion? Liang Jiushan's usually serious face melted like an iceberg at this time, and he said with a smile on his face. Chu Jianqiu was stunned. This sudden invitation was beyond Chu Jianqiu's expectation and caught him a little off guard. He came to Lingfu Pavilion just to make money by selling spiritual talismans so that he could have enough spirit stones to buy body tempering pills. He had no intention of joining Lingfu Pavilion. Boy, what are you still hesitating about? As long as you join the Lingfu Pavilion, you will get comprehensive discounts on the talisman making materials here, and the Lingfu Pavilion will not impose any restrictions on you. You can still do whatever you want. A loud voice sounded at this time. Everyone looked towards the sound and saw a tall figure walking over. Pavilion Master, Liang Jiushan, Chang Gaochen and everyone in Lingfu Pavilion bowed to the visitor. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect that this incident would even alarm Yang Zhenhai, the master of the Lingfu Pavilion. The master of the Lingfu Pavilion has always been like a dragon, and rarely shows up. Not many people in Xianxia City know him, and Chu Jianqiu has never seen Yang Zhenhai's face. Chu Jianqiu agreed without hesitating for long. With the identity of Lingfu Pavilion, it was also a guarantee for his own safety. At least the Liu family would not dare to be so blatant if they wanted to harm him. This Lingfu Pavilion is actually a branch of the Tianwu Continent Talisman Alliance, and the Talisman Alliance is an organization jointly established by many talisman masters. At the beginning, this organization was only established to facilitate communication and dialogue between talisman masters. The rating and assessment of talisman masters is not a strict sect organization. Lingfu Pavilion is within Wanwu Commercial Bank, and it only has a cooperative relationship with Wanwu Commercial Bank, and is not a subsidiary of Wanwu Commercial Bank. Yang Zhenhai saw that Chu Jianqiu agreed to come down, burst out laughing, feeling very happy in my heart. He had high expectations for this young man who had refined a high-grade talisman of courage at such a young age, and was very curious about where this kid would go in the end. If Chu Jianqiu can really shine in the talisman formation in the future, he will also have a bright face, and Xianxia County will no longer be looked down upon by the old guys in the imperial city. Boy, go on. Yang Zhenhai took out a token and threw it to Chu Jianqiu. When Chu Jianqiu took the token and looked at it, he couldn't help being surprised. The front of this token is engraved with a mysterious talisman array, and the back is a small rune. Even though Chu Jianqiu knew little about the talisman world before, he still recognized that this was the identity token of the Talisman Master. The talisman on the front of the token was the symbol of the Talisman Alliance, and the rune on the back represented the first-class talisman. Talisman Master: if you are a second-level Talisman Master, you will carve 2 runes. If it is a Formation Master, then a formation will be engraved on the back. Usually, if a Talisman Master wants to be recognized by the Talisman Alliance, he must go through a very strict assessment before he can obtain this identity token. For a Talisman Master to gain public recognition of his level, obtaining this token is a necessary condition. Chu Jianqiu didn't expect that Yang Zhenhai would give him the token of a first-level Talisman Master so easily. He couldn't help but look at Yang Zhenhai in surprise, his eyes full of confusion and questioning. Yang Zhenhai laughed and said, "You have already refined the first-level spiritual talisman of a high-grade talisman, and this test is nothing. I can't even refine a spiritual talisman of this level. If you still need to be assessed, doesn't it mean that I am not qualified to take this first-grade Talisman Master's token?" After Chu Jianqiu heard Yang Zhenhai's explanation, he accepted the token with confidence. At this time, he turned to Chang Gaochen and said with a smile, "Elder Chang, when will you give me the 500 body tempering pills?" That when Yang Zhenhai heard this, he was stunned. He looked at Chang Gaochen and said, "Old Chang, when did you owe this guy the body tempering pill? This is because you are being unkind. You, a dignified second-grade Talisman Master, are still relying on you." The account of a young junior. Chang Gaochen's face was ashen and his lips were trembling. He wanted to explain, but was too shy to speak out. In the end, Liang Jiushan explained to Yang Zhenhai. After hearing this, Yang Zhenhai laughed again, patted Chang Gaochen on the shoulder and said, "Old Chang, I am willing to admit defeat. Since you have lost, I will compensate you with 500 body tempering pills as agreed." When Yang Zhenhai opened his mouth, Chang Gaochen couldn't resist him even if he wanted to. He endured the bleeding in his heart and obediently took out 500 body tempering pills. At this time, Chang Gaochen couldn't help but secretly hate himself for talking too much. It was clear that Chu Jianqiu had bet on 300 body tempering pills before, but he had chosen to add 200 more, 500 body tempering pills. Even if he is a strong man in the true energy realm, this is still a big fortune. After Chang Gaochen took out the body tempering pill, he was too embarrassed to stay any longer. He picked up Liu Gaoyang on the ground and walked away dejectedly. If this continues and Liang Jiushan brings up what happened to Liu Gaoyang just now, I'm afraid he will have to bleed again to calm down. Although Liu Gaoyang had deceived him a lot, he was his disciple after all, and he had a close relationship with the Liu family. Naturally, he could not let Liu Gaoyang be punished by Liang Jiushan. With Liang Jiushan's stinky and stubborn temper, what Liu Gaoyang committed just now would never be easy to forgive, so Chang Gaochen quickly took Liu Gaoyang away before he could recover. Chapter 10 Breaking Twice in a Row. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jinshui City, Liu family. Sister, you have to help me take revenge. Liu Gaoyang, with bandages all over his body, cried to Liu Tianyao, how miserable it would be to look like that. Liu Tianyao was silent, his face cold. Yaoer, didn't you say that the boy from the Chu family has been ruined by you? What's going on now? Could it be that you made an oversight when you started? Liu Shushi, the head of the Liu family, looked at his son's miserable appearance with a look in his eyes. A bit angry. I took action myself at that time, and to prevent accidents, I checked several times. His dantian was completely broken, and all his cultivation was transferred to me. How could he still have cultivation? Liu Tianyao shook his head, brows lightly wrinkled slightly. The information Liu Gaoyang brought back was so incredible that she couldn't believe it. A loser whose dantian was destroyed by her actually easily seriously injured Liu Gaoyang, who was at the 6th level of body refining. What was even more shocking was that he became a first-level talisman master and refined a magic weapon that no one in Tianshui County could do. A spiritual talisman made from a high-quality talisman. This shocking news made Liu Tianyao feel a little uneasy, but she soon calmed down. According to Liu Gaoyang, Chu Jianqiu was only at the 4th level of body refining, although I don't know what adventure he had, he actually repaired his dantian and was able to practice again. But the cultivation level of the 4th level of body training is nothing to be afraid of. She now has to step up her training and hit the true Qi realm in order to cope with the upcoming recruitment competition of Xianxia sect. Chu Jianqiu is just an ant now, and it is not worth her time and energy to deal with it. As long as she becomes a disciple of Xianxia sect, it will not be easy to crush Chu Jianqiu to death. At that time, even the Lingfu Pavilion would not be willing to make an enemy of her, a disciple of the Xianxia sect. For a mere first-grade talisman master, Chu Jianqiu crazily devoured the body-tempering pill in the room. As soon as the pill entered his stomach, it was refined by his newly awakened supreme bloodline. Chu Jianqiu frantically ran the Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique, and the huge medicinal power was transformed into wisps of infuriating energy crazily poured into dantian. But his dantian was like a bottomless pit that could never be filled. Chu Jianqiu swallowed the body-tempering pills one after another. When he had swallowed 100 pills, there was a boom and a powerful aura burst out from his body, finally breaking through to the 5th level of body refining. However, Chu Jianqiu was not at all happy about his breakthrough. Looking at the huge and boundless dantian in his body, Chu Jianqiu's face turned black. Damn, how much energy does it take to fill it up? For ordinary warriors at the 5th level of body refining, the dantian is only 10 feet in radius, but Chu Jianqiu's dantian at this time is fully 10 miles in radius. The 5th level of body refining is an important watershed in the body refining realm. Before the 5th level of body refining, the true energy cultivated by a warrior only expands the dantian and does not enter the meridians. When you reach the 5th level of body refining, the expansion of the dantian will stop. At this time, as long as the dantian is filled with true energy, you can successfully advance to the 6th level of body refining. The 5th level of body refining is promoted to the 6th level of body refining. For ordinary warriors, it can be said to be the easiest step in the body refining realm, but for Chu Jianqiu, it can be said to be the most difficult step. How many body tempering pills are consumed to create a dantian with a radius of 10 miles? Without Chang Gaochen's timely support, it would have taken many years and months to break through to the 6th level of body refining. Chu Jianqiu harshly lifted the bag filled with body tempering pills. Open your mouth wide and pour the body tempering pill directly into it. An hour passed. Chu Jianqiu looked at the empty bag, his eyes turned red. 500 body tempering pills, a total of 500 body tempering pills, were gone in less than a day. One moment, Chu Jianqiu was rich, but in the blink of an eye, he became a pauper again. However, after swallowing 400 body tempering pills again, Chu Jianqiu's huge dantian was finally full, and he was successfully promoted to the 6th level of body refining. After the true energy fills the dantian, it begins to flow to the meridians around the body. The training after the 6th level of body training is to open up the meridians of the body. Chu Jianqiu did not waste time and continued to practice meditation. 5 days had passed and half of the time for the competition within the Li clan had passed. There was not much time left for him. He had to seize every bit of time to practice. Not long after, Chu Jianqiu opened his eyes and looked at the dantian that had become empty again. He almost went crazy. Just now he had just opened a meridian, and almost all the energy accumulated in his dantian was consumed. Although the second recovery of true energy is countless times faster than filling the dantian with true energy for the first time, it still takes several days, and what Chu Jianqiu lacks most now is time. It seems that this bad technique will force you to go all the way to make money. It was getting late at this time, so Chu Jianqiu had to wait until dawn before thinking of a solution. Before he could sell the dozens of power-increasing talismans he had refined before, he hurried back with Chang Gaochen's 500 body tempering pills. I originally thought that these 500 body tempering pills would at least be enough for me to break through to the 7th level of body refining. With the Heavenly Emperor's secret of chaos, as long as I reached the 7th level of body refining, I would be completely unafraid of Chu Han. Even if you don't win, you can still be completely invincible, but who knew that these 500 body tempering pills were just enough for him to break through to the 6th level of body refining. There are completely 2 levels of power after the 7th level of body refining and before the 7th level of body refining. If you want to advance to the 7th level of body refining at the 6th level of body refining, you must open up at least 4 meridians in the body so that the true energy can form a circulation in the body. There are a total of 20 meridians in the human body, divided into 12 regular meridians and 8 extraordinary meridians. As long as the 12 serious meridians are opened, you can hit the true energy realm. As for the 8 extraordinary meridians, except for a very few talented warriors who can open 1 or 2 of them, it is extremely difficult for ordinary warriors to open them. Among the 12 serious sutras, every 4 will form a cycle. After the 6th level of body refining, every time 4 meridians are opened, one can advance to the next level. The true energy in the body can form a circulation in the body. Compared with the true energy flowing along one meridian, the power it exerts is incomparable. Chu Jianqiu sat cross-legged on the bed, running the Chaos Emperor technique. The spiritual energy around him surged crazily, forming a faint storm of spiritual energy that poured into Chu Jianqiu's body. This kind of swallowing and refining spiritual energy was faster than ordinary warriors. How many times faster? But even with this speed of absorbing spiritual energy, it would be impossible to fill Chu Jianqiu's vast dantian within 2 or 3 days. Chu Jianqiu looked at the Xianxia in his dantian slowly filling up, and couldn't help but feel like he was about to cry. Sometimes this technique was so unnatural that it might not be a good thing. While Chu Jianqiu was concentrating on practicing, suddenly there was a slight noise in the yard outside the window. The sound was so slight that if Chu Jianqiu hadn't practiced the Chaos Heavenly Emperor technique and the sensitivity of his eyes and ears hadn't been greatly improved, he might not have been able to detect it.